Hello, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Let's play chess. Wasn't expecting a resignation there. Let's see. H5, H4 seems to settle. Let's see. H5, so A5 gets the ball rolling for the motion. To C2. Okay. Well, let's play another game. review this game. It's a classic fight for the center in the early going here. White has a slight advantage in a 4 knights defense with a pawn at c4. And if bishop's gone to c5, that could have happened whenever. This happens sometimes in the practice board here. We're gonna go back a bit. So here and then here with black to move. Yeah, bishop b5 is a good move, but here with black to move, white has skirted or made a pawn. Remember when pawns were actual pieces? You could hold them in your hand. Well, white has levitated that pawn up and over the c3 knight. Who knows how? Who knows how? But this position is the 4 knights. I'm gonna have to grab moves here, but this is the 4 knights, right? Yeah. Okay, so we were playing the 4 knights, and then white moved pawn from c2 to c4. No, not through the c3 knight. He didn't. But this does happen on occasion in. Must have lost the other practice board. So I'll open up a new one. This happens, and what happened in the game happens too, with bishop to c5 beforehand. But we're looking at this position versus, even without the colorings, this position with white to move, and this position with black to move. Isn't that something? The pawn jumped over the c3 knight and transferred the move to black accordingly. This is an improvement on the 4 knights. White has, by utilizing the English opening early with c4, it wasn't that first move, but it was immediately after, by playing pawn from c2 to c4, white has now managed an improvement on a granddaddy, classic, totally popular, totally awesome chess opening known as the 4 knights. I don't think I'm going to be explaining this too much today. Maybe I will. How is this possible? On move 4, white has improved one of the oldest, most venerated chess openings of all time. Move order was a lot of it, and black might have played certain moves differently. We see torch 4 is all over it with the check mark for good but not best after my opponent's move knight to c6, and I have a feeling that's related to this position with white to move, an improvement on the granddaddy age-old 4 knights opening. c4. The truth is, right now, I don't know. This much is so far so good. c5 is probably the answer. Here black is doing a little bit better. Whoops. Here black is doing a little bit better even than here. Difficult to say than here, but this is one continuation from where these two will coincide, and black is doing better than he is here. What do I say? With I think it really stems, if you want to avoid this minor improvement of the 4 knights, and you're playing as black, you for some reason you don't want that. There are a great number of options to try. We see that torch 4 likes bishop c5 best, as did my opponent. And we see there are other options like pawn to c5, pawn to d6, kind of a preparation move for making black's light squared bishop a phenomenal and strong piece. Knight to c6 is will possibly coincide or become a covariant with bishop to c5. There's more passive moves like bishop to e7. I don't know. There's maybe I don't want to say it's more aggressive, but an equally aggressive move with bishop to b4. A lot of opportunities if black really wants to avoid this, which, all honesty, folks, this is not the end of the world for black either. Okay. It's just that white achieved the 4 knights position and said, how about for some magic? Pawn from c2 to c4. Alright, back to the game. Bishop c5, and we get this 4 knights improvement. And white sees this a tactic, a good tactic. This is a strong move. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, pawn d4, and black has some, as they would say in the I Love Lucy show, black has some splaining to do. The bishop to d4 is not a great response. You see, Stockfish wants bishop b4 or knight takes e4. But anyway, one way or another, from white's perspective, we watch, because however things play out, white's going to react to black's moves. It's going to be mostly react at this point. I wouldn't waste too much effort pondering as white here. If you're black, then maybe think like Torch said, bishop b4 is pretty good. You're going to lose your knight on e5 and then have to do something about the f6 knight, but you'll probably be able to skirt by somehow. I'm not exactly sure what black will do with that f6 knight, though. So that's for black to decide. For right now, I'm going to, if you want to do that for extra work or extra homework, maybe do that. But right now, I'm just going to play as white. And of course, picking up the bishop on d4 to equalize material. White's doing well here. We're threatening white is threatening an undefended piece. Strong control of the center, both by occupying it with pawns and supporting it with mostly minor pieces. Also, the queen's in the mix, so of course she's probably supporting just about everything around her. And black needs to know whether or not to move the knight on e5 away, or maybe support it in one of at least 3 ways. Personally, I would probably move to g6. Right, g6 anywhere? No, this is not a great move for black. Keeping the knight, turning this liability into an asset, however, is a great move for black. My opponent found the great move. A great and simple move. Pawn to d6. The knight is now powerful. Just with this one square pawn move, this knight is now very powerful. He might be booted with pawn to f4 or even bishop to f4, but is white really interested in ruining his kingside pawn shield quite this early? I know I do it later on move 11, and even then it's an inaccuracy. See down here, I don't know if this will highlight. It didn't highlight, but yeah, I don't really know if I want to boot that knight from e5, as powerful as he is. By moving my f-pawn in that manner, it could be a weakness in my kingside pawn structure for a long time to come. As far as king safety is concerned, it would be weak in terms of king safety if I do that. So I played this move. I played bishop g5. The pin on the f6 knight is a good one. And most of the rest of the game is spent black and white trying to prove that this is either not a successful pin or is a successful and good pin. Kingside castle. Okay, so now white wants to mount pressure on the f6 knight, and I think, to be honest here, I am sometimes I don't know about me, but sometimes white here should settle for the double pawns on the f-file. Sometimes that's all that's on the board to be had, to be taken. My opponent found this great move, pawn to c5, on move 9, pawn to c5. And I'm looking around, I'm looking for pawns that can capture this guy en passant, and they're none to be found. Pawns that can capture this guy regularly, and they're none to be found. So, not only that, but this move is gutsy. This c pawn is almost a downside of the move. This c pawn would maybe be needed to boot my knight from d5. Though it seems like my opponent has factored that into account, realizing that there are in theory, there are 1, 2, 3 pieces of equal value that can deal with this knight as they may. We wouldn't count the queen because no one wants to capture this knight with their queen, at least not while it's being supported by these pawns. So, right, but you hear what I'm saying? This knight has to be dealt with eventually by black. And my opponent is saying with pawn from c7 to c5 that he doesn't care about the way to deal with it. That would be from pawn to c6, and that's gutsy. Not only that, it's an excellent move to boot my queen off of her square. And I'll relieve us of that cluster of arrows and red squares. I moved my queen to c3, and this looks like there's some kind of huge blunder if knight takes d5. Right. Knight takes d5. Yes, I'll grab a queen. My opponent will grab one as well, and it looks like this is going to favor black. So instead, we might have been well to initiate the attack with bishop takes f6 as indicated. The kingside castle is fine here. We gain an awesome rook. The rook's going to maybe even grow in power after f5. There's only one piece that can check the king on this dark square diagonal from g1 to a7. And that's the queen, and there are ways to repair that with tempo. So I'm saying that this kingside castle is right on. I'm glad to see that Torch 4 agrees with me. Rook to f3. A big miss here by white. According to Torch, I should be challenging this knight via c2 and thereby forming a battery on c2 and d3 with the queen and bishop on the light squares from b1 to h7. As usual, Torch is right. It didn't occur to me for some reason to place the queen on this diagonal. I don't. Recently, I had been part of the. It's not it either because that does away with it. I don't know. This is just a sheer improvement Torch found with queen to c2. My miss is noted, and here I jumped on the tactic after pawn to b5, skewering the queen and rook, but also attacking the knight for a second time. So if I'll probably capture this correctly. Let's see. So far, so good. So far, so good. And white's up 7 points of material. Good active move. Rook to b2. I think I'm going to usher my queen over to the king side and look for ways to trade the high value pieces of the queens, or in some cases maybe I'll push for checkmate. In this case, the trade presented itself. So this is one thing I try to explain and emphasize. This is a winning move. Queen to e8. Black cannot get out of the trade of queens, whereafter white will have two bishops up on black. So trade of queens. My opponent knows this and abandoned the game for that reason. So let's finish this game out against the computer playing on its maximum level. Right now I'm contemplating bishop to g6, and I'm contemplating pawn to f5, as well as bishop to f2. I'm also noting that my opponent's pawns are all on dark squares. Now bishop to g6, f5, e6, whether it's check or not, this is a good position for the bishop. It also takes a long time in terms of moves. It's 1, 2, 3 moves, and we can form almost the same benefits. We can create the same. What's the word? We can glean the same. We can glean many of the same trumps by moving bishop to c6 right away. We won't have to take 3 moves, we can take 1. The main thing is that the bishop must be on a square where he's protected by a pawn and protecting a pawn, because this is dictated mostly by the nature of where the other pawns are on dark squares. So my dark squared bishop's going to be very active. The rook's, of course, going to be very active, and this bishop just needs to remain safe. And we can achieve that long term by attaching him to a nearby pawn. So let's do that. Torch is gonna say good. No, Torch thought it as far as best. All right. Now I'm gonna try to place. Get our bishop to f2. Our king can enter the action. We're gonna trade off this doubled pawn. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to close the broadcast. I stopped the broadcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.